All right. Well, welcome to the first episode of the This Is Home podcast, a podcast where I get to explore different stories from expats across the globe. Now, I've been an expat for the last 14 years, having spent time in South Africa. Before moving to Dubai, I've had the opportunity to not only learn from people, but also experience some of the nuances that come with being an expat. So, first guest on the podcast is Shahida, who happens to be a friend and family, more or less. I've spent a lot of time with her family. She spent a lot of time on our end as well. When I first moved here, when I was in the process of moving here, we spoke about this a lot.
Yeah.
I think you've seen all the phases, more or less. And I'm really happy that we have the opportunity to sit down and sort of delve into your story and how moving has impacted you and your family. So, yeah, who is Shahida?
Thank you. Thank you, Blessing. I really appreciate the opportunity to being at least your first.
Yeah.
And inshallah, one of many.
Inshallah.
First of many. So in terms of who is Shahida, I had to strip away a little bit of the labels.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I think I do come with the labels that I identify with. So, I'm a working woman, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, daughter, all the labels.
Yeah.
But I think if I really delve in terms of who I am, I think without a doubt, I'm someone who is extremely curious, who's inquisitive, an insatiable, never quenching, always looking to learn and discover, whether it's people, places, food, anything.
Amazing.
And so I think, in a nutshell.
Yeah, it works pretty well with where you're at now, which is Dubai.
Yes.
I know back in South Africa you traveled quite often.
Yeah.
How did you?
Tried to.
At least tried to, and you had the opportunity to. I have a Zimbabwean passport, so it's not as easy. Nonetheless, having grown up in South Africa, what were some of the experiences you had with expats, more especially those that were settling in South Africa? Did you experience that at all?
So I think. Yes, without a doubt. I mean, there's a lot of history that goes into how Indians ended up in South Africa.
Yeah.
And so in terms of Indian South Africans, we settled, due to apartheid.
Yeah.
We had sort of a condition to a very specific area called Lenasia.
Yeah.
And so that's where basically all the Indians were put here.
Yeah.
And I always say, it's, over 25 years now since 1994, and we didn't realize we could move, so we stay still there.
So stay in the areas. I mean, that's true though. You have certain areas that when you do go, there's a massive Indian population back in South Africa. More especially Cape Town, I'd like to think. Obviously, there's a massive colored community there as well. But growing up within that community and then having to move. How was it adjusting? Because now we're still delving into the local part before we get into the outside. But how was that?
So I think I always feel like I'll do a little short background. So my dad was born in Myanmar, in Burma.
Okay.
Came from an exceptionally wealthy family. And overnight the coup happened.
Oh.
And he was one of 11 kids. And he was just born.
Jeez.
And so what happened was his parents literally packed up whatever they could, took the 10 kids and left.
Oh, man.
And they left him with the nanny because they were worried on how they were going to get out of the country, etc. And the idea is they were going to send back for him at some point. And what happened was he basically, I don't know the lot of finer details. It's something I'm still trying to unpack with a lot of family members. But they sent a smuggler to come get him back when he was around 7 or 8. Couldn't speak a word of English.
Jeez.
Never met his family. Thought his nanny was his mother. Complete identity crisis. And the smuggler came, got him as far as the boat, and was shot dead.
Oh, man.
So he had no idea where he was supposed to go. And literally lived on ships on and offshore and like scrubbing floors and just doing stuff to get food and a place to stay. Anyway, very long story, and there's a little bit, I don't have all the information in terms of how it happened, but at some point, by some only can be God's work. He ended up on KZN shores.
Yeah.
And somebody had spotted him. I know it sounds completely far-fetched, right?
Yeah.
But true story, I have verified it with different family members.
Yeah.
And at some point, he was like, again, between the ships that were coming on and living on the street, literally.
Yeah.
And somebody spotted him.
Yeah.
And said that he looked exactly like a student that was at a boarding school.
Wow.
And that's how he reunited with his family.
Wow.
True story.
That's an incredible story. I think the fact that you've managed to trace it back and verify it contributes obviously to your identity and you finding it. A lot of expats don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, 100%.
Going back in time to try and figure out who you are is an essential part of growth, obviously.
Yeah.
So coming from that, so living in South Africa, you now have a family. And how did you end up deciding, I'm going to leave home and move to Dubai? We've spoken about this a couple of times. And it's, to be fair, it's a really interesting story.
Yeah. So I think the fact is almost like and the reason why I told that story is I feel like it's almost in my DNA to not stay in the same place.
Fair enough.
Really, I feel like I'm not meant to stay in the same place my whole life. And I was 38 years old, living in the same place, born, bred, everything, you know. And it's almost like something was like brewing, like, you know. So I think for a long time, I've always had the idea that I wanted to travel extensively. And when you travel a lot, I think you get to a point where it's not enough.
Yep.
And you want to like immerse yourself completely in a space, you know.
Absolutely.
And so we were, I think, husband and I, at some point, you know, became uncomfortable, I think, with the way things were sort of heading. Yeah. And I think at some point you have to separate what's in your control and what's not.
What's not,
And there was many things. I mean, there's a lot of challenges in South Africa, without a doubt. And I think with the lens of being parents, we wanted to just have a more healthier environment.
I could resonate to that on so many aspects. Back in 2008 in Zimbabwe, we had the economic crisis. And my mother would have loved for me to grow up in Zimbabwe and go to the schools that, you know, my cousins and, you know, some of the older family members went to and sort of have that Zimbabwe experience. But, you know, we're forced to move to South Africa, where I ended up doing, you know, high school and university. You know, despite what she wanted, it ended up being, I need to do what's best for my child and what's best for me to also provide, you know, the best environment for my child. So despite that authentic Zimbabwean experience being taken away, that sacrifice had to be made.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, it goes without saying, it must have been a really tough decision. Yeah. And now, as it stands, or better yet, as you were processing all of that, what was the sort of plan, or what went into planning that?
Yeah. So I think we had planned for Canada, first of all.
Yeah. The cold. It's the complete opposite.
So I think we just wanted an opportunity to have another passport. That was the dream. Yeah. And obviously all the other pieces that come with it. And so we had applied for our PR visa. Yeah. And we were in that very methodical steps.
Yeah. Yeah.
And literally we were one step away, which is to write sort of an LSAT, the English test. Yeah. And like we were busy studying, we're in the midst of it, and I got a call for an opportunity in Dubai. And so the entire thing shifted and it just seemed like, you know, when these things kind of happen, it just makes you realize that you're not in control.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think the seed was planted in us and we were literally 1 foot out the door kind of thing in terms of exiting the country. Yeah. And this just made perfect sense. You know, it's a Muslim country.
Indeed. I was going to get into that.
Yeah, safety. Yeah. I mean, we can chat more about that, but it just made a lot of sense. Yeah. And everyone was really supportive. In fact, literally, my offer came through the week of the riots.
Oh, no ways. I was already here, I think. Was I?
Were you?
No, but
no,
I don't think I had. I think I was. Yeah, no, I hadn't moved yet.
So it was. Everyone was just like, "Go."
Oh man, I think that was probably like a bigger green light.
Yeah, it really
sort of
was.
Move.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of the push. I think if we were just a little on the line. Yeah.
So the process of leaving family How did you sort of handle that? I think it's more of a process as time goes.
Yeah.
You start off by planning, and then you start meeting everyone and breaking the news.
Yeah.
How were your loved ones? How did they feel when you broke the news to them? Aside from them encouraging you to go, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think, first of all, between my husband and I and the kids, we knew about it. Yeah. We were still in that little bit of that COVID phase.
Okay.
So we weren't really going out that much. Yeah. We weren't like socializing.
Yeah.
So it was like a good time because we really like sort of looked in terms of what was best for the family.
Yeah.
My kids were really good. We told them not to say anything to anyone.
Yeah.
They were really good. They did not.
They did not.
They were really, really good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So my parents both have passed.
Okay.
So, but I'm really close to my hubby's family.
Oh, yeah.
My in-laws, they're amazing. And so that was the difficult part.
That was the difficult part.
And because I've worked pretty much as long as I've been married. My mother-in-law has been sort of like a big pillar of strength and really like grew up my two boys.
Yeah.
So that was the hard conversation.
That was the hard part.
Yeah, it was very awkward.
Oh man, I can't imagine them watching their grandkids also go, because I know they spent a lot of time with them as well.
Yeah, so my mother-in-law kept on asking, actually, are you going to leave them?
Would that have been an option though?
No.
No,
we were doing it for them, right?
No, fair enough. I mean, it's and on that as well, growing up, and again, the economic crisis in Zimbabwe, a lot of parents ended up in the UK, the US, and usually it was a single parent, so a mother would travel, or the father would travel, and they'll leave their kids in Zimbabwe, either in boarding school or with grandparents or aunts, and there's always that separation. Yeah. That fear of separating from family that always comes with it. So it's great that they don't get to experience that. And it's amazing that even if they did, your grandparents also were willing to.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because my husband and I both didn't live with our parents.
Really?
Yeah. So his Ran got quite ill and lived in like a small town called Lichtenberg. Okay. And when she got quite ill, the doctor suggested she have someone to take care of, and because she was living alone, then all the other family was out of the area.
Yeah.
So my husband lived with her from he was about maybe 5, 6, even younger, until he literally got to high school. And because there wasn't a high school in that area, he came back to Lenasia, where he continued schooling and where we met.
Oh, man.
And on my end also, my parents were like working full time. Yeah. So I lived with like a family who was sort of a caregiver during the day. And at some point, because the house was like quite busy and there was other kids, I stopped going home.
Oh man. Oh, you know what? It's and again, it ties into why this podcast is so important. I feel like there's so many stories that you could always resonate with. Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of people that also didn't live with their parents for various reasons. Yeah. But I think the experience of that, in the same regard, will always resonate with someone out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving on, family, broken the news down to them. I'm trying to imagine what that's like. I know off your Instagram when you were leaving, that was probably a very emotional time. Yeah. You're sitting on a plane now, and you're like, okay, it's happening. How was that feeling?
So first of all, they wouldn't let us on the plane because the COVID test went right.
Oh, man.
So there was this hour and a half where they were trying to verify, because they were saying we didn't do the right COVID test to get on the plane. Oh, no. Because it was the COVID test 48 hours and the COVID test when you got to the airport. And they were saying the one in 48 hours wasn't valid.
Oh, no.
So anyway, we almost didn't get on, but we did get on. So I think, look, to be honest, sitting on that plane, I think our hearts were all still beating because we literally ran to get onto the plane, because we didn't know.
Really get a chance to let it sink in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Yeah. And I think it was exciting, to be honest. Man.
Yeah.
Aside from all the the tears, because there was tears.
There was tears.
There was so much tears.
Who cried the most?
Everybody. We had a proper Indian send-off, right?
Oh man, amazing!
Like minimum 20 people.
I know how that is. Trust me, I've been at the airport, and there's Indian families obviously getting on the plane and leaving South Africa. Yeah. And it's a big party.
Yeah. Honestly. It's a big party. It's a Nando's at the airport.
Exactly. And you know what? What's funny is before that, there's some family members or friends that wouldn't make it to the airport. Yeah. So even before that, there's a massive gathering. gathering.
Oh,
so
massive.
you're only seeing like a quarter
Yeah.
of what was there previously.
No, absolutely. It was a Friday we left.
Yeah.
It was a Friday lunch. Everybody comes to my mother-in-law's house. So
Yeah.
everybody came, and all my friends came, and all of Abdullah's friends came.
Man.
It was huge. We sat outside.
Did Abdullah Brai?
Big. No. Before that.
Fair enough.
It was a big, everyone was at home, and there was tears there, and then we got to the airport and there was tears there, and it was really emotional.
Yeah.
But I think definitely excitement in all of it. I think the thing about coming also after COVID was we hadn't traveled for a while.
Yeah.
Right, for 2 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So for us, it was that excitement
Okay.
of leaving, and I think when we got initially, to be honest, it felt like a holiday.
A holiday, more or less. Oh man!
Until school kicked in,
until
and all the real life,
and obviously work became very consistent.
Yes.
I'll tell you what. When I was on the plane coming to Dubai, I cried a few times because I was like, "Wow, okay, this is really happening. This is great." And I think the one thing I said to myself in my head was, I'm not going back.
Yeah, very interesting.
And by not going back, it's, this is going to work out. I'm going to make sure that it works out, more or less, purely because of the experiences that I'd had previously, which were pretty tough from a visa perspective and trying to get permanent residence. And what's incredible is the process here is so much easier.
Yeah, 100%.
So that made that feeling even more valid. I'm sure for you as well, the process was quite seamless, I'd like to think, and made things while settling down a lot easier.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of, things that could be better in Dubai.
Yes, absolutely.
But in terms of coming in as someone that's sponsored by a company, setting up a company, coming in even as a student, they really make it exceptionally easy. That's not your stress part.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have other stresses.
Other stresses, absolutely. And then as time goes.
That's definitely not one of your stresses.
And then, so settling down, obviously you've got a family, so you have to have a place to stay. And then you have to figure that out first things first. So how was the difference in, you're in a place that's extremely hot. Yeah. There is
we came in September.
Exactly. And there's a lot of expats here. So obviously there's different people. You're experiencing different languages at almost every turn, different smell as well. Yeah. How was it for you personally climatizing to that? Yeah. For me, it was hard. Yeah. But we'll get into that another time. Yourself, Shahida, how did you climatize to that and sort of normalize your process?
I think two things.
Okay, all right.
I think whenever we've traveled, one of the best ways we have found our way around is just walking. Yeah. And that's a little bit difficult when it's 45 degrees.
When it's 45, absolutely.
But we did. We took little walks.
Yeah, and your glasses are steaming up. Yeah. Fair enough. Little walks.
We took little walks, but it really helped us sort of find our feet, kind of. Yeah. Dubai is not like your European countries and some other places where, it's just easier to navigate on foot.
Indeed.
So I think for the first week or so, we kind of, kept to the hotel that we were based and kind of moved around. Yeah. But not long after, you have to get a car, especially with kids. It's just so expensive.
Absolutely. I still use a cab, but I mean, I can't imagine packing two kids in the back. Yeah. And
so it just got really expensive. Yeah. So I think that's the one. It's just to walk and explore and kind of get a feel of the place and find your way. And the other, and this is going to sound so mummy, but it's visiting grocery stores.
Okay, that's a little bit of shade because there's very few people that actually do that.
So it's just like getting a feel of what's in a grocery store, what products are there, because they're not like what we used to.
Yes, no, true.
It's trying to find things that bring comfort to you, especially to the children. They're not used to the same snacks, so just kind of hot chocolate, and peanut butter, normal things. But that's really how we've honestly found our ways. We found our way to supermarket. We've started experimenting.
What's that store where you get all the South African products?
Hyperama.
I need to visit there. I still haven't been.
You haven't been
in all fairness.
Okay. I think we were there within week 2.
Really? Oh man. I mean, everyone tells me about it, but I'm just everything's on your phone. So it's
the boys wanted chip nicks and weird things that you don't you don't get on the side. So we'd visited. I'm pretty sure it worked week 2.
No, absolutely. And just so you've settled down in Dubai. What have been, let's just say, a couple of things that you've enjoyed about being here that at the very least make it feel like home?
Yeah. So I did an assessment a while back, and it said like one of my main strengths is I have like an international perspective.
Yeah.
Like it's just innate in me.
Yeah.
And obviously through traveling and all of that, you get that, the diversity.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's something that I really love.
Yeah.
I mean, if I just like you speak to my kids and, you know, here's a Poland friend and someone from Scotland and someone from Ecuador.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay.
Those are not. I mean, South Africa is very diverse.
Yeah, but
that diversity of different countries across the globe,
indeed,
you don't get that.
Yeah.
And even like the people in my office, like just very multinational.
Yeah.
And I think I'm obviously getting to know people and individuals, and you realize that our issues are a little bit the same.
They're very similar.
Yeah. Like, we complain about how messy the men are at the office, and it's apparently universal.
It's very universal.
It's not an Indian thing.
And it's... And a couple of conversations I've had with a lot of colleagues as well. When we speak about the economic crisis back in Zimbabwe, I have friends from Lebanon or Egypt that can resonate to waking up the next morning and prices are like 60% different.
Yeah.
We've got people that can resonate to electricity going, load shedding.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, so it's not necessarily an Africa problem.
No.
100%. I mean, not that we're sort of becoming familiar with each other through discussing our problems, but it's those small things that make you realize that there actually isn't much of a difference.
Yeah.
And I think even from a religion perspective as well.
Yeah.
I'm a recent revert, so being here has helped me understand a lot more about other different religions.
Yeah.
So Hinduism, Christianity, and so on.
Yeah.
So it's all those small aspects that you're like, oh, actually, you could find similarities when engaging with people.
Yeah.
So that's always exciting.
Yeah. And I think tolerance.
Tolerance is a big one.
Yeah. I think Islam preaches tolerance all the time.
Absolutely.
And I think I never truly understood it until I got this side, to be honest.
Indeed.
Like, I mean, I don't know if you've heard of that Abrahamic Center that I set up.
In Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. I mean, that's really like, for me, it's like just the epitome of Islam.
Tolerance,
and just tolerance across all religions.
Yeah.
So I think that is definitely something that stands out.
Outside of religion, even tolerance is a massive aspect because there's so many people from different places here.
Yeah.
And we, at least my interactions, everyone gets along. Some of the discussions I have, pretty great. Meet new people in the elevator, and it's like we've known each other for years. Yeah. So that's a massive plus when you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think coming from South Africa, we have BE, which it's favored. So it's
looking
at giving equality to Black, Indian, colored, and white on that scale.
Indeed. Yeah.
And in the work that we do, which is headhunting, recruitment. It's your lens, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And then you get over onto this side, and that doesn't matter anymore.
Yep.
It doesn't.
That was a massive transition.
Yeah.
Honestly, the requirements are completely different in that spectrum. And just adjusting to that as well, I think is a big process individually. Yeah. And getting over that hurdle just makes, when you open your eyes to the fact that there's so many different people from different backgrounds to consider,
100%.
It's quite incredible.
In fact, I spoke to someone recently and they were asking me what I like about it. And I just said, to be honest, like for the first time, like I can go to a public area, like to the beach or somewhere like crazy, but I can guess the nationality.
Really?
Like for fun, like through the accent or something,
absolutely.
But that's really, it's really just...
It opens your eyes.
It's really very
I think
diverse.
being in the UAE really does open your eyes. And one of the other benefits, and I think this ties into understanding other people and meeting new people, is the fact that you could travel with your UAE residency to some countries in the GCC and obviously outside of. Which places have you been to out here in the GCC?
We went to Turkey when we just got here.
Yeah.
So a little bit out of the GCC, but 3-hour flight.
3-hour flight. That's pretty good.
And I did Azerbaijan, Baku.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing.
That was really good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to Jordan.
You forgot Oman, Shahida.
I forgot
Oman is my favorite place, honestly.
Oh my gosh. Oman has such a special place in
beautiful.
my heart. I can't explain. You haven't done Musandam, right?
No, not yet.
You have to do it.
Yeah. So from that perspective, though, being in the UAE has obviously opened up those doors. How do you feel about that? And how's your family feel about that aspect?
Yeah. So this is actually I'm an avid traveler. You know, there's nothing that gets me up than like traveling. I mean, I love it. Like just the planning, the thinking, everything about it. I absolutely love traveling. And so coming on the side, super excited. Can't wait to like literally get my teeth into every spot that I can possibly can. My kids have had an inverse.
Okay.
Yeah, inverse. So I think, and I'm just, being patient with them. But I do get impatient.
Fair enough.
But they miss home.
Oh man,
yeah,
I can imagine.
So really, every time we talk about going, so they did Turkey with me. I did Azerbaijan on my own. We did Oman together. And then I was like coming in, which is when we take our break. I was begging them. I was like, "Come Sri Lanka,
let's go.
Come, Jordan. There were so many options. Eh?
Sri Lanka's great, by the way.
I know you just came from there. And they're like, no, we'll just go for 2 months in the summer to South Africa.
Nice.
So maybe they'll come around.
Maybe they will. But at the same time, you got to give them time.
Yeah,
they'll figure it out, and maybe at some point they'll decide where they want home to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it takes a lot of time. I think I've gotten to a point where I'd consider Dubai home. Purely because I've settled down and things are going quite all right. Other than that, I spent 13 years in South Africa before moving here.
Wow.
It felt like home for a very long time.
Yeah.
Until I obviously settled down here.
Yeah.
So in all fairness, home could be anywhere, but for now it's Dubai.
Yeah. So I think they say by year 3.
By year 3. I'm actually getting into year...
Okay.
Well, year 2 is ending now.
Yeah.
So I guess that's probably it.
Yeah, so they say by year 3,
Yeah,
if you're here still by year 3, you're not going anywhere.
Then you're going to stick around?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Because when I first moved here, everyone's like, oh yeah, 5 years. And like I was telling everyone, I'll do 5 years here and I'll be done. Now it's looking like I'm going to stick around for a while.
It'll be hard to leave. It'll be hard. There's actually a book out that I want to get where it's like Life After Dubai.
Really?
Yeah, lady
Someone actually wrote a book about that?
Yeah.
It's probably a tough transition.
You on it on Amazon, yeah.
Oh man, maybe I should interview her to find out who the author is.
So she apparently lived in Dubai for quite a long time. I just read the summary, and she went back and she was giving her experience in terms of how it was going back to another country, even though it sounds from the intro that she struggled with it here. Yeah. But going back was even harder. We'll see.
I mean, being here in Dubai, what have been some of your struggles or things you've had to sort of work on?
Yeah. So I think communication was a big thing in my initial stage. That's because of the nationalities and the diversity. So just in terms of, I'm like, hi, how are you? How was your weekend?
Yeah, you can't always assume someone can speak English.
Number one.
Yeah.
And some people just... they don't want to let you know what they did on the weekend.
They did on the weekend. We worked in an environment where, we were in an environment where you could just spark up a conversation at any time, really, and like delve into like how the weekend was or how your family was. So I get you.
Yeah. So I think that was the one thing I had to like just get used to it, and I had to like, no, okay, for this person I can do that, I had to adjust constantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's, in some instances, you just get to the point, while you're at my door kind of thing, from a work perspective.
Yeah.
I think the other sort of difficulty is just managing relationships back home.
Oh yeah, that's tough.
Because I lived there my whole life. Yeah. And I have childhood friends that are best friends, and just really close relationships, and just trying to keep that call going once a week. It really is effort.
It's hard work, yeah.
And then you also, you get to a point where you just think, I'm doing all the effort. No one is doing it on that end, So you have to. That's been tough, I think.
Yeah.
Just keeping those relationships somewhat together,
intact,
as an expat.
Yeah.
That's tough.
It really is. My closest friends are in Canada. My one close friend is here in Abu Dhabi, so that's nice.
Okay.
But managing that relationship from uni or high school uni
Yeah.
up to now is still pretty tough.
Yeah.
Last time I was in the same country as him, I think was 2018.
Wow.
We were in Cape Town on holiday.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, ever since it's just been like Instagram, Twitter, sometimes WhatsApp. Conversations are very sporadic,
Yes.
but we speak occasionally.
Yeah.
So that's obviously hard. And then family is even harder because there's a bit of a time difference.
Yeah.
And it was a lot easier being in South Africa because I could just visit, right?
Sure.
And spend like a week or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's been really tough.
Yeah.
At the same time, forming friendships and relationships in Dubai is also tough because it's very transient, right? People come and go.
Yes.
At the same time, we're all stuck on being so busy.
Yeah.
When you do have a weekend, you try your best to spend time with yourself and for you, with your family.
Yeah. 100%.
So making that space or time for friends is even harder.
100%.
So those are, I mean, that's easily one of my biggest struggles as well.
Yeah.
Staying in touch with family and maintaining those relationships. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think time for self.
Yeah, time for self, man.
Because Dubai is just, there's always something happening.
You're telling me.
Right? Like there's just always something opened and the new restaurant.
How do you manage that though? How do you manage to? Because I fall into the trap a lot more often than I should.
Yeah. So I think I told you this when we met last time that I did a bit of an Instagram detox.
Okay, that's
because I feel like Instagram reels you in every now and again.
Yeah, you check out this restaurant that's popped up and you're like, hey, should we go? And the next thing you know, you're there. And it's what, maybe let's say a Friday night.
Yeah.
And then the next day you're like, oh, actually, there's another one.
Exactly.
And then you go check that out.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, it's Sunday, and you know you're having the Sunday blues because tomorrow is Monday.
Yeah, and you haven't really
chilled.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I think we staying a little bit out of Dubai.
Yes.
So we like almost 25, 30 Ks out of Dubai.
Oh, nice.
So it's a little bit isolated, I think.
I saw the camels yesterday.
It's the camels, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're a little bit in a cocoon.
Yeah.
So we have weekends where we'll like just go to the store. There's a couple of restaurants there.
Yeah.
And that will be sort of our outing.
Nice.
And not to the big sort of Dubai.
Yeah.
I still get the chills every time I drive into Dubai and I see the skyline.
And you're like, oh, here we
I
go.
love here.
Yeah.
Because I don't, from where we stay, we don't see no buildings.
Is it
There's
completely
no
dark?
high-rise.
I kind of miss the complete darkness of a city. I mean, not to say I miss load shedding, but like, in all fairness, because where we stay, it's like lights.
Yeah.
So
no,
it's
not like that at all.
Really?
Yeah, it's very
you see
quiet.
stars?
You see stars.
Oh, nice.
It's quiet.
That's awesome.
It's really nice.
No, I mean, time for self is, oh man, that's and I'm glad you mentioned that. That's such a massive one.
Yeah.
Honestly, we really do get stuck in working
and being busy,
and being busy.
Just
it becomes such a norm.
Busy,
and anxiety sort of peaks during that period.
I have read more books since I'm in Dubai than I have done probably in my entire life.
No ways. Last question.
Yes. Shoot.
And I think you're going to find this one interesting. If you were to be asked, let's say 5 years ago, where would you say you wanted home to be?
Oh, interesting.
Take your time.
5 years ago.
5 years ago. Where were you 5 years ago?
I'm trying to do the math. Okay. I mean, we were in South Africa.
Yeah.
We're traveling, I think, quite a bit at that point. You know, so unpacking my career.
We were working together.
Yeah, we were working together.
Yeah, working together then.
I think without a doubt it was Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. Canada was going to be my next step.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Picturing us sort of settling in. Yeah. You know.
And for now, where is home? Is your mind still in Canada, or would you say Dubai has reeled you in?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to leave here.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's just too many.
I don't want to get into
it's not perfect. It's not perfect by any means. No place in the world is perfect in any shape or form. Yeah. But Dubai comes pretty close.
Okay.
Pretty close.
Okay,
I think it just makes a lot of things that you would have challenges and difficulties in other countries.
Yeah.
It's a little bit softer here.
Yeah.
And location-wise, it's really central.
Absolutely. You could travel anywhere. Really.
Anywhere. Like for me, I think in my foreseeable future, Dubai is home.
Yeah.
And will be my central point, no matter where I go or end up, wherever life pulls me, type of thing. Nice. I think without today, I'll have a base here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, inshallah, if this podcast is successful, we'll have you back again in the next 5 years.
Inshallah.
And we'll find out if Dubai is still home.
Absolutely. I'm curious to know.
Let's see what happens. But thank you very much, guys, for listening in, tuning in, and giving us your time. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share, because there's some incredible stories we're going to share here that I hope will resonate with all of you. All right. Cool. Thank you, Shahida, for joining me. That was awesome.
It was awesome.
Yeah?
Fist
all
bump.
Right. Fist bump. All right. Cool.
Are we done?
Yeah.
Really?
Pretty much. How was that, man?
Was
yeah?
it good?
Cool.
I didn't know whether I must look there or at him.
I was just swapping. It's okay.
I think I looked very awkwardly there and I was focused on you.